Hey everybody, this is Dr. Flight, and this video is on a segment that is focused on short-term um, campaign marketing planning. So short-term planning for a marketing campaign that would involve maybe a single goal or objective, and it would be done in the very third or last part of the planning process when we're doing tactical or executional types of campaigns. So there's going to be a 7 or 8 step process here that we think about when we develop a plan like this. Again, this is for a short-term campaign. And it's very common for all organizations to do these campaigns. They're tactical and they're strategic in the sense that you want to achieve a specific goal when you're doing one of these types of things. Okay, so reach out to me. Let me know if you have any questions. I look forward to hearing any comments. Thanks. All right, so we're going to begin here and just define and think about what we're talking about. We're focused specifically on short-term marketing campaigns. So we typically want to address or focus on a specific organizational objective here when we're doing this. Again, this is like a short-term campaign that we want to deal with. Oftentimes, these would include several different components all at once in terms of creating and developing and executing this type of campaign. We want to begin and we want to think about having some analysis done of the client or the market that we're going to try to reach. So some research that we would deal with. We would also want to better understand and know who our competitors are. This is going to be organizational competitors and also behavioral competitors. So being aware of and understanding those. Offering a service or offer or product and creating that's going to be the element that we're going to campaign with and actually offer. Advertising. We don't think of advertising as advertising fulfills lots of different purposes for different reasons. And in a campaign like this, it's going to be to motivate, but it's also going to be to build awareness that the campaign is taking place. Promotions are another element, and sometimes we think of advertising as going along with promotional campaigns, but promotions specifically look to stimulate demand. We need to engage in cost recovery efforts. So, we don't per se run a nonprofit campaign and look to price it or make a profit off of it, but we do need to cover our costs. So if we're going to run a campaign or a service, we're going to have to cover our costs somehow. So we need to consider that. The delivery and the execution of the offer itself, and then after office service delivery, after offer follow up, and customer relationship marketing type stuff is what we need to do. So think about these 8 elements. Make sure that you understand that these 8 elements are all included in a short-term campaign, and they sort of go in sequential order. Like we do client and competitor research together, we create a offer or a service that we're going to provide. We make we make our market aware of it by advertising. We may include some type of a promotional or activity to stimulate demand for our good, our product, our offer, and then we want to make sure that its costs are covered one way or another, either through donors or pricing or something along those lines. We need to execute and deliver our product or our service, and then we need to do after service follow-up. So, these are the underlying activities that are done whenever you create a campaign. So always, when we do a campaign, check off this list. Make sure that these are planned. These 8 activities are planned. Now, there is a planning process, which involves 6 different elements here. So the campaign marketing planning process then helps us accomplish those eight steps that we just looked at. So the process helps us organize a project, ensuring that it's audience-centered and focused on continuously improving what we call the client experience. So we want to listen then to our audience. We want to plan, we want to pre-test, we want to implement, monitor, and then revise and update. So these are the process steps that help us accomplish the 8 components that we just looked at. So we just looked at 8 components, but these are the process steps that we would go through in order to do them. So let's start off with listening. Marketing research then helps us listen to the voice of the customer. It helps us understand what the customer wants and what they need. And so the voice of the customer is a term that you're going to hear, which is a result of being able to capture information about the customer and their wants and needs. And sometimes we think of this as a part of the market research process. We also can ask them in reference to our competition too, what they like, what they don't like, and so forth. Step 2 in the planning process is planning. So actually putting down on paper what you intend to do. We've listened to the customer. Now we need to translate what we hear from the customer into action steps. So the transition and translation of the voice of the customer into action steps is the next thing that we're going to deal with. We need measurable goals, right, that are going to help us achieve program objectives. So we need to write out our steps, we need to have measurable goals, and we need to have those goals reinforce and reflect objectives that we have for the campaign. Okay, so this is step number 2. So we did some listening, now we're doing the planning, and then that leads us into pre-testing. So pre-testing then is the next thing that we do. We have a plan. We don't know if that plan is going to be successful or not. So we want to maybe do a slow rollout or a modest, slow launch of our program that we just planned in order to pre-test it. So pre-testing is when we offer a limited or restricted basis or level of our offer. So limited or restricted components. And we want to test if the offer we're making is appropriate. We want to test our advertising. We want to test whether the market is receptive to the product or not, or service. We want to test to make sure that what we're offering is going to be effective in reaching our goals, which support the objectives that we have. And if not, we need to make adjustments. So that's kind of the thing that pre-testing provides us for. So we run through testing to make sure that we are going to implement what will be a successful program. Okay, so step 4 then after pre-testing will be to execute our program, run our program, run our plan as we have it. We want to provide a timeline for this execution. We want to do the launch. So sometimes this is called commercialization or program launch. So that's what we're going to be doing during implementation. We're actually doing the execution phase of the actual campaign. After execution and during the actual delivery process, we're monitoring. Key thing here is to remember that we're monitoring progress to goals. That's what we're doing here. We're measuring our goal, our metrics that are tied into our goals, and we're identifying whether we're on track to meet those goals. So we sometimes call these key performance indicators, KPIs. We maintain the KPIs. We have a dashboard a lot of times to reflect and review what we're doing, make sure that we're on track to do what we're supposed to do. Anytime we deviate or move away from our goals or progress towards goals, we may need to adjust our plan. So just like in pre-testing, we adjust to make sure our plan's going to work. In monitoring, if we see big deviations between our actual performance and our planned performance towards benchmarks, then we know we need to make some reevaluations and we need to adjust our program. Okay, so that's all built into the planning process. And then finally, we revise and we update. So as a result of monitoring, and even once the program is completed, after the program is completed, then we want to evaluate whether the program was successful, and then identify changes that we want to make. So revising and updating would be the last thing we do. So if we're doing an event, we're doing a short-term campaign, we're doing some type of a offer for a short period of time. Once it's over, we want to sit down and talk about what went well, what didn't work well, and what changes we're going to make in the future. Okay, so this was kind of quick and dirty and easy, kind of an outline of then the marketing campaign on a functional level. It started with the listening, planning, pre-testing, implementing, monitoring, and then recycling or revising process that happened. So we had 6 different steps. Those 6 different steps were there to reinforce the 8 different components that we looked at the very beginning, which outline kind of the process, if you will, or the elements that we key in on when we do marketing planning campaigns. So if you have any questions, let me know. Again, this was fairly short and to the point in terms of what we're looking at with this lesson plan. And as we move forward, if you have any questions, please just feel free to touch base with me and let me know. Thank you so much.